Well, come out, produce them, and don't make them wait. These UK kids start much too late. Oh, but Setlist 11 is gonna be great. It might even settle the score, cause it's with Andy Merryweather. I really want to go into the bridge of that song because the bridge is the best part.
It is Andrew, one of the best parts of that song. You're right.
Yeah. How's it going today?
Oh boy, I am exhausted, but I'm actually pretty excited about this one. So,
yeah. One of our previous guests, Melissa Woody, had mentioned, "Hey, you should get this guy that hosts the show, and he's really knowledgeable about music. I think he would have be a great fit." I was like, "Yeah." So we met. So she got us together, made us the list, and let me tell you, of the lists that we've had so far, this is the one that I'm most excited to talk about. It is a roller coaster of emotions. But yeah, our guest today is part of a tandem of hosts for a show called Settle the Score, like a movie trivia show that's basically name that track, which is a very interesting show. But without further ado, let's get him in there. It is Mr. Andy Merryweather. How are we doing?
You got a nice white dress and a ball. Yeah. How you doing, guys? All good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm very, very excited. I'm new to you guys as you are new to me. This is going to be a fun little collaboration. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So from your show, like I just kind of watched it a little bit before. You give these little snippets of songs, and instead of them getting to name the song, you get them to name the movie. And I think there's an interesting little aspect of it because you get to kind of pick where you start from the song, and then as well with you and Matt, you kind of get to give clues. So you're almost like unraveling this thing. Yes. How did you guys come up with the show or whatnot, or who was the kind of the person to get this thing going?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. I met Matt in Chicago for Star Wars Celebration back when he had the Top 10 podcast. And I went to see Matt and John Roca live. And I just happened to end up sitting next to Matt's wife, Catherine, who I befriended, like we hit it off. And just in case Matt watches, I won't suggest that I made her laugh more than him on the night. But anyway, we got on very well.
Go on, please do.
We did hit it off, Catherine and I. We became friends, and she sort of recommended me to Matt as a person in his life, which is quite interesting. So the next morning or the morning after that, Matt and Catherine took me for brunch, and just to kind of talk to me. It's kind of a weird situation to be like in the audience for someone's show, and then for them to be suggested that actually you guys would get on very well. And that was that, really. Matt had this, I think he would admit that he kind of put this barrier up because I'm essentially a top 10 fan. And we had a good chat, but it wasn't like, we're not exchanging numbers or anything. And then the pandemic hit. And around that time, Matt and John were spinning off the top 10. I don't know if you guys are aware of the top 10 or anything, but they were spinning it off to, not spinning it off, but they were doing like this trivia thing called the Golden Ticket. And Matt really wanted some intro music for it. And Catherine, again, pitched me. She was like, well, you know that Andy's a musician. So Matt reached out and we collaborated. So I got a message from him in the morning of my time. It would have been late his time. And a couple of hours later, I had a recording out to him of essentially the Golden Girls theme, but I'd re-lyriced it to the Golden Ticket. And so, yeah, if you go, you've seen Golden Ticket? Have you seen an episode of that? That's my
no, I haven't. No, I haven't seen Golden Ticket, unfortunately. No.
Yeah, so the Golden Ticket trivia thing that they did on the top 10, that's my intro. And then Matt said to me after that, I really enjoyed working together on this. Would you fancy doing something? And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't really do anything anymore. And he basically said, leave it with me. And then I didn't hear anything for weeks, really. Like, it wasn't like, how you still want to do so. just didn't hear from him. And then he messaged saying, are you free for a video call? And I'm still sort of teetering on being in awe of him as a stand-up comic. And so it was kind of like, looking at my wife and going, oh my God, what's going on? And then he said, he listed the rules for the show. That's what he'd been spending the weeks doing, was coming up with the entire show. I have absolutely no, I think I had a couple of ideas that were awful, just to, be part of it. But yeah, that was it. He had this idea. Oh yeah, the catalyst for the idea was because during lockdown I'd done this movie distributions logo music quiz for my friends.
Okay.
So I was like playing, and they had to like say what it was and stuff like that. So I was like playing movie. I put together a little video for my friends and like, take as much time as you need, get back to me with what you think the answers are. And Matt had seen that, so he knew I could play movie stuff, and so he came up with the idea. So it was all him, essentially. And yeah, I'm very, very lucky that he picked me, because I'm sure there are pretty competent musicians out there. But yeah, it's really fun. We get on very well. It took a long time to kind of be as close with each other as we are. He's quite a guarded fellow, and so we've both broken down each other's walls, and we've had a couple of fights, and now we're great. It's good fun. We got there. So now, yeah, and then we have the Patreon and the Discord. Everything's going very nice. We feel like we've got this small, it's a very niche show. Like, you have to be really into your movie scores, but also into me. And yeah, so it's kind of weird, and in that it's one of these shows that's fun enough to potentially be bigger, but it's so kind of precious and niche that we like our hardcore absolute diehards, but there's a small pocket of like a few hundred of them, and that's kind of where we live. And I'm not planning to give up my life and work and stuff like that for that, so it's a good little space at the moment. And it's just, when I hear, I've heard little moments where they've suggested that it's being pitched to Rotten Tomatoes as a show and stuff, and I'm like, if it comes to it, it comes to it. At that point, take the piano and go. I'll stay with my life and just pay me residuals or whatever. I don't fancy doing it as a profession, because I think it's a little risky. I'm getting weird and deep. But yeah, there we go. What did you ask?
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah, so how are you doing today?
Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about like the kind of the nicheness of the community, and like how how dedicated they can be. Like, I've been in this trivia community for about 5.5 years, and it's like, I like that nice 200 crowd level, and it's a great little hobby, and it's something to do for fun. It gets the creative juices going. I've had a lot of fun with Andrew, just like making this, and then our other show. That was a love passion project of making a top 500 list. But we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the show finally. So how this is going to work is, for anybody who hasn't seen the show before, you're gonna get the same 10 questions that they get every show. So once you watch it the first time, then you're all set, ready to go. So we'll get right into it. Question number 1, Andy, who is your favorite artist?
Do you know what's fascinating about this? Same 10 questions every episode, but I guarantee it's a different 10 answers, even for the same person, week to week. It must be, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a fluid question set. Yeah. So yeah. So my favorite artist, and I had a few to pick from. I have memorabilia in this room that suggests who I kind of grew up on, who kind of broke parts of my voice down. I think I've got like a parrot ear, so my accent's made up of different people that I find inspiring. And the same with my singing vocal. But I went with Billy Joel because it was like, even if it's a lie, I remember, I think Piano Man was the first ever song I learned on the piano. And ironically one of the 3 songs that I probably won't do on request, but just because it's overdone. But yeah, I grew up on Billy Joel. I feel like I know so much of his repertoire. It felt like he became a punchline for a while. It felt like maybe it was a little bit embarrassing. I never spoke about Billy Joel in school or anything like that. But yeah, he's the guy, William Martin Joel, my man.
So you might have just hit the jackpot in terms of like just revered artists in the community. I was familiar with him growing up. Like I knew his big hits like Piano Man and whatnot. But then it wasn't until I got into this community and I had met people like Andrew and a couple other people, and they were like, "Hey, like no, Billy Joel's an incredible artist." And I took that deep dive into it, and man, just an incredible songwriter. The different kind of beats that he's making for all of his tracks. I just think that like all of his singles except for like a few are all at like A plus. Like there's one of his albums in particular is almost as great as hits. Like all of his best singles come from that.
Is that the Songs in the Attic?
No, not quite. But we'll kind of get into it as we kind of go through. So he had opened in 1971 with Cold Spring Harbor. I believe a record that our own Mr. Producer Man has. If you could bring it up. Yeah, I got to listen to that very copy, and it's pretty. Like the opening track, like She's Got Away, and then like the one that he still played. Yeah,
yeah, beautiful.
Just that pretty soft intro, and then the one that he still kind of brought with his tours. Everybody Loves You Now. I think that's incredible from a piano playing perspective because it's very fast. If he's good at anything, it's fast as fuck piano beats.
Yeah, it's just the 1 and the 4 going. Yeah, very, very fast. Yeah.
I'd also bring up a fun fact about this album. I don't know if anyone knows this, watching this, or on screen right now, but original pressings of this album were recorded wrong. They were actually sped up in the recording process. So original copies of this album are actually pitched up.
Oh, wow, okay.
So if you find a copy, play it, and if it's pitched up, it's an original copy.
Wow, very interesting.
And I'm gonna head backstage.
No, that's great. No,
yeah,
we'll take that all night. That's great. Very fun.
And then then we get into 1973 with the Piano Man, like you were mentioning, has the iconic track, but this actually has my favorite deep cut of all of his discography. And that would be the Ballad of Billy the Kid. I think that this is similar. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll stop there.
No, do it. No, it's great. I'm getting that little dopamine of the melody. But I think this is similar to Bohemian Rhapsody and another song that we'll definitely talking about later, and that it has those different parts. But I think it does a great job of telling a story without doing so much like the Jim Steinman style, like mile a minute words. He's able to kind of pace it out quite nice, and then it just ramps up into that like instrumental part, like do 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 do. Yeah, and then he has some answer with the piano, and then the strings come in. It's just very epic. But yeah, how do you feel about this album, and in particular deep cuts that you enjoy?
Piano Man. Piano Man. The album, I really like. The album that I'll go to and listen to is Cold Spring Harbor because there were so many songs on it that. So what I had the Billy Joel anthology piano book. I don't read music, but I can do guitar chords and stuff. And so just in terms of my kind of OCD, I learned the book in order. So Cold Spring Harbor was out the way quicker. It was like not out the way quicker, but it was the one that I learned every song from before moving on, and then you start to pick your favorites as you go down the line. But yeah, Piano Man and Ballad of Billy the Kid. I think Billy the Kid was the first time, and it's because I was so young. But the twist ending, which felt like a magic trick, where he stops singing about Billy the Kid from the Westerns and says, with a 6-pack in his hand, he's talking about himself as Billy the Kid. I know it's not that clever, but as a kid, as like a 4-5-year-old, I couldn't believe. I was like, it's him, you know. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and also maybe the first song that taught me like chords over different bass notes, which is still a technique that I pull through. Like a lot of my piano playing is Billy Joel based, like that kind of playing an F over G and stuff like that, which I still use those techniques now, but absolutely formative years for me.
I'm gonna get into a big fucking music theory nerd thing, but my favorite thing of what you're talking about is in Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, and it's like that D. It's like this F sharp over D7, but then it goes into the G. I find that it's a nice resolve. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. I call it a big nerd when I try to do little music theory stuff like that. But
right.
But yeah, no, I think that's always great because it creates new life into something that often sounds pretty similar to the casual ear. But yeah, then we get next year with 1974 Street Life Serenade. Couple other good ones, not a ton of like big singles on this one. You have The Entertainer. You have a great instrumental piece in Root Beer Rag. I think that's just the one where you want, if you want Billy's best piano work, I think it's in this song.
Right. Actually, Root Beer Rag is the first song that I skipped in the anthology when I was a child.
Oh yeah, okay, that would make sense.
Yeah. I skipped. It was unenjoyable to my ear because that's how I would learn them. I like listen to the song, get the album, like get the actual cassette tape, and put it in, and then I'd listen to the songs and then learn them. And like referencing back to the guitar chords. And Root Beer Rag was the first one, and I never then crossed that bridge. Maybe I should. Like I'm able to. Like it's just one of those things where, and a lot of my Billy Joel playing, when I go back and play his songs, like I was playing a little bit earlier just to make sure I could remember some, and I was like, oh, I'm still playing like I'm doing bad childhood habits that I've not shaken off because that's how I learned them. I've never like adapted my technique to how I would play now on these old Billy songs because that's how I learned them. So I'll always play them like that. Like in a song we'll talk about later, that the piano solo in it, it's like it's messy. It's like how I would have learned it as a kid with child fingers, and I haven't changed. I realized, I haven't actually gone back and relearned that properly. Fascinating. I'm going to get his discography up because you're far superior on the Billy Joel knowledge than me. Let me go.
I also just have it up here with me. If I was doing this off of memory, Jukebox trivia would still be a thing. We used to have a music trivia league, and that was a great time. All right, Jukebox trivia. But then we get into Turnstiles, 1976. I would say this is like a top 3, top 5 Billy Joel album. Opens with a fucking banger, Say Goodbye to Hollywood. Andrew, you may as well come in here because this has one of your favorite songs, Summer Highland Falls.
This is also my favorite Billy Joel album, so mwah.
Summer Highland Falls.
One skip on this album.
That one,
yeah,
very nice, beautiful song.
It's okay. So, spoiler for anyone who's watching this and is also watching our top 500 list. This is my number 1 Billy Joel song, Summer Highland Falls. It is just a gorgeous piece. So, but this Miami 2017,
Prelude Angry Young Man is the one. When I go to listen to any of his live albums, that's the one that I need to hear first. I need to hear Prelude Angry Young Man.
Angry Young Man live. It's such a live track. I'm surprised it's even down as a recording. It's such a live track. I'm gonna flip the camera and show anybody watching who knows the song how it's not gonna be hard to see, but it's basically you're hammering on the C and just doing like did you guys get Rugrats over there?
Yeah.
So like the Rugrats theme is this. So you're just doing these like thirds, and it's just hammering. It's just yeah, you're just hammering on the C, and then you're doing the Rugrats theme up there. It's easier than you'd expect. It's just hard to keep it going. You need some good forearms, which I don't.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I can only imagine like the way your fingers would like bleed after the first time playing it through.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I actually think with the band around him that he must be hitting. Like if you isolated his piano, I bet he's bumming it. Or I just think he's probably hitting B's and C sharps all over the place whilst he's going so quick, because it's more about the aesthetic of that move.
Yeah,
his hands going blurry and stuff. Yeah.
And I think this album in general just had some really good piano riffs. Like when you think about like New York State of Mind, and you think about like if there was ever somebody in a Billy Joel concert and they're like, "Hey, you have a chance to play one riff. What are you going to play?" They're gonna play this to try to wow them, because it's so iconic, and like he's able to repeat that riff throughout the entirety of it.
Yeah, it's is it starting to maybe. I've absolutely forgotten how to play New York State of Mind now. How does it start? Is it like that?
I think that's pretty close. Like I can't remember it off the top of my mind, but
yeah, I used to know that whole thing. That's crazy that it's gone for me. Yeah.
I will say the one song on this album that is a skip every single time is "All You Want to Do Is Dance." That one's fine. It's good. But it's like the one song on this album that I like skip every time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Nope, it absolutely is. And then after that,
do you guys like I've Loved These Days? I actually played that at a party the other day for a request.
Do I like that song?
Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah. Beautiful.
I don't recognize it like a ton off of the album. It's definitely like another like deeper cut, but no, I'll have to give that one another kind of deep dive. Yes, and then we get into what a lot of people think is his best album, The Stranger. So many of his hits: Moving Out, Just the Way You Are, Vienna, Only the Good Die Young, the one that we referenced in the intro. She's Always a Woman, like a really good lullaby. And then you have the self-titles track, The Stranger. I think is a great one that doesn't get played a ton. And then since we're here, we may as well kill two birds from one stone. Your favorite song on the current top 500 is also from this album.
Yeah. As long as the answer was always going to be this, as long as it was on that list. That's what I had to find out, because this is my favorite song ever. It's the only one that I would say if someone asked me what's my favorite song ever, that would be the one. So yeah, Scenes. I love it. The reason I think that I have adopted this as my favorite is because I'm a kind of if I've heard a verse and a chorus of a pop song, I need to move on, because I always learn how to play songs with my ear, so basically when I'm listening to music, I get very, very bored and irritated. It's actually, I don't want to get too deep about it. Maybe I do, but it's quite annoying listening to music sometimes for me. I'm just figuring out chords. I'm seeing how to play it in my head. And that's how I learned as a kid. I would like listen to the radio on the drive home from school, and the last song that played on the radio that I'd come in and play it. That's kind of I was training myself, and so when it comes to listening to music, I have to skip. So if you speak to my wife, she'll attest that in the car I need to move on. I've heard everything this song has to offer me, and Scenes does not let up. It doesn't give you that. The only callback feels like a resolution to me. It feels like a breath of fresh air when it comes back around to at the end. And so it's just the perfect. I mean, this and like you said, Bohemian Rhapsody and the B-side from Abbey Roads. like those songs where they go on, they take you on a journey and they move around so much with key signature, time signatures. They're the easiest for my ear because there's a lot to chew on.
Man, you were talking about the B-sides of Abbey Road, and all like my favorite like edition of that is I think it's just called The Long One, where it's just an entire cut of that entire entire backside. Yeah. I listened to the fuck out of that. Like I think it was like last summer or something. Just so many great little movements in it. Yeah. From this record, I would say that Vienna is my favorite. I think it's just really pretty. And I was able to kind of it's a very relatable song. Oh hey. She has it on record. Hey, Melissa.
Nice. It's very old. It's like it was my dad's, so it's like really beat up.
Yeah. Melissa, I don't recognize you under like intense red hue. What's going on?
I know. This is what I look like. It's weird.
Melissa, get back here, Melissa. What are your thoughts on the album? You have it, so there must be you must have some feeling on it.
Yeah, I would say Vienna is probably my favorite. That's what I was looking at while you guys were talking. I was like, what is my favorite on this album? Probably Vienna. But I mean, Billy Joel, I mean, he's incredible. This is a great pick for best favorite artist.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. I do want to get back into something that you were talking about though, Andy, with like you play music by ear. And it can get almost repetitive at times. I understand how you feel. When I'm trying to learn a new song, I have it playing often, like on a TV or something. It's like, all right, what's the key of this, and then try to go from there. What I've enjoyed about that is that I've been able to kind of pick up patterns, and then when I'm either like doing a cover or when I'm like the odd time I'm trying to write a new song, but I like it a lot for like mashups. Like I was doing a cover of "You Don't Mess Around with Jim" one day, and I got to the part when he's doing like the spoken word thing, and I'm like, this just doesn't really fit. So I was trying to figure out like what's something that I could fit in here that kind of fits this chord structure that is kind of off kilter. And I was like, oh, I can actually fit in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme, and it's like fit in the verse, and it was able to actually kind of go seamlessly. But yeah, that's a cool thing about pop, is that it can be solved basically, and that you can fit in all these different puzzle pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a very, very similar process. Party piece of mine, and I think Axis of Awesome have probably done it to death now. But yeah, I before Axis of Awesome came along with the 4-chord song, that was a party piece of mine, especially college, and I would play 4 chords and just do as many songs as I could in that structure. But yeah, it's good when you start recognizing patterns and you go, oh, this is the exact same sequence as this, and yeah, you can. That's good. It's good training, definitely.
Yeah. And then we get into 52nd Street a couple years later, 1978. I would say this is where he starts to put in a little bit more emotion. Maybe he has a little bit more like anger, a little more angst with it as well. Like you look at his big tracks on this, Big Shot, Honesty has a lot of kind of drive behind it. Stiletto is a great little number.
Yeah, Stiletto's had like a revived. It's got life in it again from live. I think he's kind of brought it back. They've dusted it off a little bit. It's found some life again. Yeah, Honesty's my second favorite Billy song.
Okay, that makes sense.
Very raw.
It is. The chorus in that, I just kind of like, I was listening to it one day and I finally realized how hard hitting the chorus can be.
It is. Actually, I'll play a little bit of Honesty because I find it so fun. This is a good opportunity to do it. I never get to do it, but it's very angsty. And actually, next time you listen to Honesty, or even now, I think this is a Ray Charles song. Not actually, but I just think this is more of a Ray Charles song.
That makes sense, though. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I mean, even the intro, I think you could see Ray Charles. I think you can see like echoes of Georgia in there. But yeah, this chorus, even like starting a chorus on a major seventh is so weird as well. But it's very angsty. It's very like angry, like pressing down on the keys a bit differently. Yeah.
What I need
Nice.
from... Oh man.
Yeah, and even this move up here, it's like everything's just so like he's obviously like maybe it's just good songwriting, but I would say to your point, he seems a little hurt in this album.
Yeah. I think my favorite line in the album though might be from Zanzibar. I got the old man's car, I got a jazz guitar, I got a job at, and then it just hits like those big 3 notes like bar. I think it's very nice as a like almost like a Broadway feel. You can feel like the dancers behind him like doing like the having the arms out and then all
right.
Them up.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then next one we get up to is Glass Houses. This is another great one. He had a nice little run here with The Stranger, Second Street, and then this. And like when you listen to you may be right the first time. Like you hear the glass breaking, you're like, what the fuck is this? And then you go to the album and it's called Glass Houses. It makes sense for that. But yeah, you have you may be right. Don't Ask Me Why, which is a really good guitar song. I think doing some interesting stuff there. Still rock and roll to me. Sleeping with the Television On is another great deep cut. I forget if it was Andrew or somebody else had really enjoyed that song. But your thoughts on the
that was me.
Andrew. That was you? Okay.
This is... There are more blind spots on this album than maybe others for me. I think we are talking about like I'm 6 years old learning his songs like that, and we're now getting to the back end of the anthology, and I'm just sort of skipping to ones that I like or ones that play with my ear well. And honestly, if you'd have quizzed me on it, I thought, even though it makes so much sense with the Glass Houses and the smash at the start, that I thought You May Be Right and Big Shot were paired together, and that's because I've always listened to them together, and that's probably a greatest hits issue. But yeah, I thought they were on the same album.
That makes kind of sense though, because trying to think of because You May Be Right ends on A, and then Big Shot is is G? No,
down. Maybe not G, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's just always like they've always paired together for me, but I think that might be maybe Barno's. I think is a greatest hits thing where I've listened to the greatest hits so many times that one goes into the other.
There's definitely an order for us. But yeah, then we get into Songs in the Attic in 1981. This is more so greatest hits with a couple of... Was there any new ones on this one? No, there wasn't. But yeah, Miami 2017, Summer Highland Falls, Everybody Loves You Now, Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Captain Jack, which I don't think we've talked about yet. Captain Jack, I think, is his most overrated song, unless you're in the city of Philadelphia. Would that be correct?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm from Philly, so like it's a big deal here. So watch your tongues.
I was in a hotel in New York, and someone asked me to play Captain Jack, and I had never ever been asked to play that before. I knew how to play it, but I thought that was such for me to say, whatever you want, and then for them to say, "Oh, can you play Captain Jack?" It felt so unusual. I did it, but it was so weird. But yeah, I guess it is a bigger song. I don't think it's big at all over here.
No. Yeah. Then we get into the Nylon Curtain, 1982. This is where we get into an interesting stretch of albums. We have some good ones here. Allentown was a great one for it to open with. Goodnight Say Gone, Pressure is this nice, kind of similar to the angst that we got from 52nd Street. You get that in the synth. She's Right on Time.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on the album?
Yeah, this is a good album. I like this one. I think Allentown I always associate with live, because you get the big steel pipe that like that. Beautiful. Pressure it's like a funky groove for me to play, so I associate it more with playing it. And Goodnight Saigon is a favorite of mine, although after Ross on Friends with his keyboard, I can't hear a helicopter in a song and not think that Billy's just playing like a Yamaha. Like that. Those sort of sound effects now, they grate on me a little bit. But yeah, it's a beautiful track. I can't remember what key it's in. I've absolutely lost all my Billy. But it's a beautiful track, and those bass notes dropping down, very melancholic. Side 1 I know so much better than side 2. Again, I think that's now the second album in a row
that's one I'm looking at the tracks for the bottom half of it, and I couldn't remember the melody. So you are not alone in that fight. Then we get into An Innocent Man, 1983. We have some good singles here, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to reach. I think this is an overrated album because when you look at the singles of this, An Innocent Man, The Longest Time, Tell Her About It, Uptown Girl. Uptown Girl is arguably his worst single, or his worst beloved single among Billy Joel fans. Tell Her About It, I don't think he's played live since like the mid 80s. And just the way that the song is aged. And then you have The Longest Time, which is a great like a cappella piece, but I think it's when you look at his discography in particular style, it goes out of the way. And then the other one as well, Keeping the Faith, I think is good, but a lot of people give criticism, I think maybe for where he was at the time. I know he definitely had an addiction of some sort to a particular drug, and a lot of people thought he was just high on cocaine doing the song. But your thoughts on An Innocent Man?
I've always thought of this album as a parody album. That's how I feel. I think Billy's doing a parody album for fun, probably. And this is probably a bias towards him, but I think it feels like the songs are so I don't want to say naff, because some of them I like actually, but they're so typical, they're so pop. I feel like it felt like his record label was saying to him, Billy, more pop, no, stop experimenting, stop doing this, stop doing that. And then he went, you want a pop album, do you? He go and like did it like out of almost anger than not. But I can't listen to most of these. They're just so typical. But Longest Time, I do enjoy the sort of fall of the chord sequences in that. And This Night is cute. Obviously, I knew the classical piece, Pathetique. But yeah,
I remember when I think it was like my generation, or maybe the generation before me, had really started to get into this song, and it was around the time of like Vine or maybe like early TikTok. And there would be a bunch of high school kids would get into a bathroom and then start singing the song. And man, it sounds awesome. Like I'm not gonna deny that. I always appreciate good harmonies.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah.
And then after that, we get into the bridge. Another shorter one. You actually mentioned him earlier, similar to Ray Charles. This is where Ray Charles comes in with Baby Grand. You have a couple of good ones here. I think my favorites off of this are A Matter of Trust and Running on Ice. But other than that, a pretty meh album. Cyndi Lauper is on here. But I couldn't play the song for you if somebody asked me. But your thoughts on the bridge?
It's not really like a piano album for me. So that meant I didn't really get involved with it. Baby Grand, interestingly, I think, unless Bar fact checks me, is stereoed to Ray in one ear and Billy in the other. And although I'm a Billy hardcore, Ray Charles absolutely destroys his ability to play piano. There you go. I think if you listen to Ray move up and down the keys, it's absolutely ridiculous compared to Billy. And Billy is very accomplished. And there are now faster piano players than Ray Charles. But yeah, yeah, I've always liked playing Baby Grand. A love song to a piano. I mean, that's my go-to.
Yeah, I'm just listening to Baby Grand right now to see what if you say what you said is true. I don't quite hear it. It sounds pretty equal from both sides, but I'll have to give it a deeper check next time.
Yeah, yeah, I've definitely. I feel like I've either made that up or it's true. There you go. There's the binary. But I can tell the difference between them, and that must be from having heard them separately. I feel like there must be a stereo version out there of the track.
Yeah. So then after that we get into Stormfront 1989, considered one of his worst albums. Kind of leans into the synth for a lot of it, or tries out these different styles. You have We Didn't Start the Fire, the Downeaster Alexa, a favorite, like kind of deep cut of mine. Shameless, which he has admitted to saying that is kind of a Jimi Hendrix impression, or his homage to Jimmy.
Yeah.
Leningrad is another nice little soft one, and then I Go to Extremes, which is pure 80s pop. Let's say. Downeaster Alexa, I think, is a top 10 song. But
my dad's favorite Billy song.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. He's a fisherman.
Yeah.
I go to Extremes. So fun live. Has that bit where it's like it keeps breaking for Billy to do different parts on the piano, and he's jumping up the levels of. It's almost like those YouTube videos where it's like, I'm going to teach you how to do a piano run in 5 levels or whatever, and it starts off with him just doing doing like a double tap on his finger, and then it goes up into more intricate like runs, and then he just ends up slapping, and then the final one he does live is to turn and sit and put his butt on the piano up the keys. It's just fun, obviously enjoying it. Always changes the line to I Go for Ice Cream live. Yeah, always good. And So It Goes is one of my favorites too. Beautiful. I really like how So It Goes. It's pretty.
Yeah, and then we have a 4-year hiatus to 93, River of Dreams. You have it starts off with this big epic rock of No Man's Land. But the other ones here, obviously, the River of Dreams being the big one. I love this. I love that one live at Shea Stadium when he masters it up with A Hard Day's Night. I think that those two go hand in hand. But other than that, there isn't a ton of other big singles on this one.
Mm-hmm. My favorite song from River of Dreams is 2000 Years. I don't know why.
Okay, interesting.
I think philosophically, I mean, so I was 8 when this came out. I don't think I was reading the lyrics too deeply then, but yeah, when I came back around to River of Dreams as a teenager, there are some interesting messages that probably I haven't looked in a while, but probably pull through as there's an art versus science debate that he's having in the song, I think, from memory. Okay. I really like it. What I don't like about it is it feels like the hook of the song, which is not how I play it. So he plays this like hook where it goes, and it always feels like a yo ho ho piratesy thing,
like a sea shanty, yeah,
like a shanty, yeah. And I don't play it like that. I always just break the chord down in the beginning, and I don't play the hook. Which happens. There's a few Billy Joel songs where I don't actually end up playing the hook because it feels like I never go out into Miami into the big stuff. I always keep it down. I always keep piano soft. I don't go out into the big whacking epic stuff in Miami. I always because I think it's a deep song, so I play it like a ballad. And the same with 2000 Years, I play it like a ballad.
River of Dreams was kind of his last studio album. The only other like original kind of stuff that he would do was Fantasies and Delusions, which he did with Hyunki Ju. Good Night My Angel. That's another great one. Oh yeah, geez, that's also off of this one. How did I forget that one? But yeah, the only other album that I wanted to talk about, I was alluding to it 30 seconds ago, was the Live at Shea Stadium album. I think that one's great. Just the last show being held there. There's a who's who of cameos. Tony Bennett comes on there to do New York State of Mind. Garth Brooks, the person that ended up kind of making Shameless as popular as it was, he was on there. John Mayer was there for a little bit, and then the big surprise at the end, Paul McCartney comes out. I think might have been the first time since like the epic Beatles show that they did at Shea Stadium at the time. Did some really, really great ones. Of the ones to hear live, what is your favorite to hear live?
I think I might even pronounce this. Is it the Coapt album, the Russian album?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, Angry Young Man is the fastest it's ever been played in that live. It's so quick. When it comes back from the verses, which are the worst parts of Angry Young Man, is the singing. When it comes back around and he's playing again, just him, I've never heard anything so fast on that album. So that I randomly listen to, those things that you just like. There's YouTube videos you just go to sometimes just to feel something different. That particular moment in that album when it comes back from the verses and he's just hammering away, just playing it so quick, and it's so clean. He's playing it on a it might have been the circumstances, but it certainly doesn't sound like a grand piano. He's playing it on some sort of a keyboard, so the keys are probably lighter, they're probably not as weighted, and it's so fast. He speeds up the band. So that fascinating. That whole thing. And I watched the documentary that goes with that one. His tour there. So that one for me is my go-to.
Okay.
But they did have in UK cinemas. I don't know if they did it over your way. They had live at Yankee Stadium. Went to cinemas this year. Billy Joel live at Yankee Stadium for it was like an anniversary showing.
Okay, it didn't hear, but we don't like where I'm from in Canada. We don't get a ton of the movies or their theatrical releases, but that'd be cool to check out in the theater. You hit a home run with this answer. I think it's going to be pretty hard to top. Unless you want to hit my heartstrings and you want to go super Canadian. But we'll get into
who would that be? Who would I have had to pick?
You would have had to have picked Stan Rogers. But we don't have enough time because we've already I've
gone for every Billy song.
Go into that conversation for a while. I'll talk about him after. And then to question number 2 though, your favorite song to dance to?
Yeah, interesting. You probably you heard of this song before? The song that I picked?
I hadn't, but go on.
Yeah, cool. So I did used to dance a little bit, but that's gone. I've got man boobs and a big hips now. I don't dance anymore. But the thing that I like doing, especially with my wife and now our 1-year-old, is to put on a banger and sort of jump around the kitchen. That's that energy out for us. And this is the perfect song because it's not Mr. Brightside, which is the go-to for people like jumping around the kitchen. And this is a song called Ashes by one of my favorite UK bands called Embrace, who have an incredible story of being like their inspiration for Coldplay, and then Embrace ran out of money. They got screwed on a record deal, and Chris Martin ended up writing them a song called why am I forgetting the name of the song? Gravity. Chris Martin wrote them that song to kind of get them back into the charts and get them because they all had to get normal jobs. They're like one of the UK's favorite bands, and they're getting normal jobs like carrying water coolers and stuff. Crazy. Ashes. I'm just going to play it for people because no one will have heard it, and the chances are they won't go and commit to it. So I'll play a little bit, and I'll play it in a ballad. So it's a pretty upbeat kind of banger with a great hook and everything. but I'm going to play. It's basically a song, probably a post-breakup song. So if you need that kind of energy out, not, I'm happily married and stuff, but it's just one of those. It's that great feeling. And there's this hook that plays over the D major. The chords change underneath this D major hook, and it's kind of like. And then the verse, the chorus, I'll just play it in a kind of ballad way, just for lyrically, just beautiful. It goes, now watch me rise up and leave all the ashes you made out of me. When you said that we were wrong, life goes on. Just look at how long I've agreed. Now watch me rise up and leave all the ashes you've made out of me. When you said that we were wrong, life goes on, you blew me away. Yeah, I just love it, man. That gives me chills, that song, every time.
Yeah, this is a really cool song. This reminds me a lot of like Metric, and kind of that era of alt rock. I would love to hear the song live. I feel like that'd just bring an entire new energy to it. I do say Metric, however, though, because when you get into that opening guitar lick, similar to how you were talking about, like once you hear a song, you want it to kind of move on. When I hear the intro of this, all I think of is the intro to a Metric song called "Breathing Underwater," and that was kind of their biggest hit here. But they kind of have similar beats, but okay, a great cool song. Really excited to check these guys out. Yeah. So we'll get into question number 3. We already did this one. Did it on 500. Question number 4. Your favorite concerts?
Yeah. So I've seen Billy live, but it felt ridiculous to go there again. So I've seen every tour this band have done, and I've been a musician during the wave of hatred that this band got, and it just didn't make sense to me. Other musicians would talk about this. This became like a topic of conversation as to why they were hated so much. It didn't make sense to anyone.
40-year-old virgin, absolutely. There was a 40-year-old virgin.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, but when this band Coldplay did the Milo Zolotto tour, they came up with these wristbands that you'd wear. Have I lost you, or you just gone for a sec? I'll keep going. They came up with these wristbands that were, I guess, Bluetooth, some technology, and they're called the Zolotto bands, and I still have mine on my nerdy shelf back there. And so basically, you got given these things, and no one really knew heading into the concert what these were going to be during this tour. And then I really hope it's on this album, and it might not be, because it's the one moment I remember thinking, oh my God, when you're at a concert and something like takes your breath away. And it was Charlie Brown, which starts with a nice little hook. And then it kicks in, the bass drum like that. And yeah, Charlie Brown kicks in, and all these bands light up, these wristbands, and suddenly everyone in the pitch black of like Wembley Stadium, the entire stadium's lit up by these bands, all different colors, like all different colors, very similar to this like Philips Hue light I have back here. Like, it was just so vibrant, so well lit. It was in time with the music. Absolutely incredible feeling. Very like community feeling. Everyone's there to, like, you're there already to see a band that everyone in the stadium loves. You're already singing along with all the songs, but now you've got this added thing. This it's an extra, it's not just an audible thing. Now you're visually a community. One of my favorite moments of a concert ever. And if Charlie Brown's the wrong side, it definitely kicks in with that. That might be on Adventures of a Lifetime, but it's that kind of thing. And now they've developed it. Me and my wife went to see Coldplay on the most recent tour, and now they've developed it where they can actually send the signal to the wristband within a seat. so they could make heart shapes. And it's not, you're not assigned a seat in like a stadium like Wembley.
Oh, wow.
You get there when you get there and you find the seat you want to sit in, and heart shapes it, and they're sending like weird Mexican waves in lights, and what the hell? I was again, this band just can't go wrong for me. I just love them. I love their attitude. They seem so down to earth. If anyone wants to see what Coldplay are like behind closed doors, they've been filmed since before they had even written a song. A documentary started about them when they were just teenagers, just 4 guys playing music together. They hadn't really written a song, they were doing covers. A guy decided to start filming because he was doing film studies and he needed a project, and so they have been filmed every day for their entire career. Chris Martin, like with braces on and like, you know, saying before they were Coldplay, they hadn't even come up with the name yet. And there's a documentary that all that footage got put together for the 20-year anniversary of the band, and it went out to cinemas and stuff. I think it's called Adventures of a Lifetime, the documentary, and it is so good. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times. It's just so good. Just to they are obviously best friends. They came up with rules so that they couldn't get in each other's way. Like everything gets split 4 ways, even if Chris writes the song solus, everything gets split 4 ways equally. There's no drugs in the band. There's no cheating. No one's allowed to cheat on their partner. If you break these rules that they've got, you're gone, no matter how important you are to the band. So no one does. And so I've been on tour with people, and it's been kind of disgusting, and it's broken my heart a little bit to be on tour with people that I appreciate and see what they're like, and Coldplay aren't. They are just, I find them precious. So yeah, the Milo's a Lot of tour was just it took my breath away, which hasn't really happened in the stadium before.
That's cool. I definitely attached to them early on because I would have been like 7 or 8, I think, when Yellow came out, and then would have been like middle school or like junior high when The Scientist, and I feel like that was kind of like the perfect age for that. But yeah, then they had this nice little sort of like pop renaissance with Paradise and whatnot, and like Viva La Vida. It's crazy though, because like you were mentioning earlier, like the banging bass drum or whatever. I feel like they had done that, like they had been doing that for a while, were popular with it, and then Imagine Dragons comes in, and I feel like people give them shit so much for doing basically that same thing. And it's just, I don't understand the correlation behind that, though. My favorite little question to ask within this question, were there any openers for Coldplay that had kind of grabbed your attention?
You mean opening acts?
Yeah.
Genuinely, no. I'm not an opening act guy. I wish I had a good answer for this. I'm not I know Coldplay look after people, so they tend to get local people to that city in that country, I think. I don't think they take people on tour with them, so it's always someone new. And I think they had in all the times I've seen them in London, it's usually something that's not a Coldplay type thing, and it will be like some grunge or what I don't know. Like I don't know what the genre of music is because I'm crap at music talk. But yeah. It wasn't me. It wasn't for me anyway. I always feel too old at these things, and it was much more younger crowd getting there early and listening to this. So no, I wish I had a better answer than that.
That's all right. You're like you're there for Coldplay. You're there to enjoy them. Yeah.
Yeah. Bar did correct me. A Head Full of Dreams is the name of the documentary. So go and find it. I think it's on Amazon Prime. And Adventure of a Lifetime is a way better documentary title, but that's okay. Head Full of Dreams.
Sorry, I'm completely fine. That's a very normal thing if you know me. But
okay, cool.
On to question number 5. Your favorite music video, and you had an interesting choice. I think this music video has a surprisingly interesting message.
Yeah, I purposefully, I knew, having submitted the list to you, that you would go off and watch this. I haven't rewatched this, so I had so this is the my choice for this one, and there were many. was just by Radiohead, and I wouldn't have picked a music video that came out in the because I haven't watched a music video in forever. I can't remember the last time I watched a music video, but just from Radiohead. I didn't go rewatch this. I didn't want to study up, so I'm going to tell you how I remember it, and you, having seen it recently, presumably, can sort of course correct me. Maybe I've embellished this. Maybe it's more fascinating than I remembered. And also, I can't remember the year that this came out, but it must have been significant in terms of no one did anything like this before. I hadn't seen something like this where it didn't matter about the band in the video at all. It didn't seem to matter. And so what happens in Just is that it's a busy street. I think it's probably London, and the camera's focused on someone and they trip, and the reason they've tripped is because someone is lying on the ground, and they seem distressed at first, having tripped, but then showing concern, and they're asking this person if they're okay, and blah blah blah, and it's all subtitled. So the band are playing the song, which is like a heavy song. It's certainly not for piano, and it's so distracting from the lyrics. Like almost you don't hear the song at all. You're watching. It's like you're watching a silent movie, but the soundtrack is Radiohead. That's what it is.
Yeah.
What's happening. And so they ask if the person's okay, and they say, yeah, just leave me alone. And then someone else comes by, what's wrong with him, blah 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 blah, and suddenly a crowd starts to gather, and this, why won't you get up, are you hurt, do you need us to do something? And he's like, no, I just want to be left alone, blah blah blah, and he's just lying on the ground. I think he's in a business suit, which is juxtaposed to, it's not like a homeless person or anything like that. And anyway, at the sort of the climax of the video, he kind of concedes to having to tell people why he's lying down, and it's the only part of the video that's not subtitled, his answer. And I'm sure there are probably websites like Lost style websites where people are theorizing what he said, but he says whatever he says, and then the camera pans out from the street, from this where this guy is, and everyone is lying down, and it feels like a very kind of, I don't know, like a Chris Nolan move or something, like Denis Villeneuve would have done it in a movie or something like that. It's so weird, and it must be years and years and years old. So yeah, I find it fascinating. I must think about it once a year, just wondering what the guy said. And obviously he didn't say anything. That's the point, isn't it? He didn't say anything of note. No explanation would be satisfying.
I realized I tried to save the release year, and I was like, "Fuck, I was muted." But no, this came out in 95.
95.
I believe
That's so soon to do something like that.
Yeah. But no, this is I really like this music video. You're right that the silent movie nature of it is almost distracting. But I think it was a really smart choice of having that one subtitle taken out, so it's kind of left for interpretation. Where it's just like, I looked at it as this person like kind of like being depressed, and then if the allegory sort of being if it isn't looked after for so long, or if you don't deal with it sort of head on, that it can sort of it can affect others that are kind of in the process. So I thought that was really neat. Radiohead in general, I find, is, I wouldn't say an acquired taste, but they're definitely, you have to give them like kind of like a 3-song warm up to kind of get reacquainted with their tone and style, because I find what makes them so popular is that they're kind of just a little bit off kilter for everybody. In particularly the tone of the guitar. But I want to get in the music video expert of the four people here. Melissa is, I would say, watches most videos out of any of us. So Melissa, have you seen this video before? I don't remember if we talked about this before, but are you a big Radiohead fan?
Oh yeah, I mean, my favorite band is Pink Floyd, so like I feel like they're often compared. Yeah, no, I love Radiohead. I think I've seen this video. I was kind of rewatching it as you guys were talking about it, and I was like, I feel like I've seen this. It's been a long time, but it's probably not what comes to my mind, just because I've seen more of their recent videos.
Sure. Yeah, and Tom York is experimental in his videos, and I had a VHS which was 7 Radiohead music videos on this VHS, and I'd never even heard of that before, and I don't know how it ended up in my possession. I just had it as a kid, and so like Street Spirit Fade Out is one of those music videos, well, one of those editing techniques where something's moving in normal motion but someone's slowly falling off a thing, and they have all these different ideas for videos. The Tom York solo career had that one, the rabbit in the headlights, where he's walking through a tunnel and he keeps getting hit by cars. He's just getting smashed up by cars and he keeps getting up and walking on, and it's so weird. Like, the guy has just a fascinating mind. But just as there are plenty of 9-minute Michael Jackson videos that I grew up watching as well, and I just can't get Just out of my head. It just freaks me out. And it's so not my type of song to, it's not like I can play it. It's not enjoyable to play on the piano at all. So yeah, it's stuck with me.
Similar, and kind of like how you're saying beforehand with music videos in general, I feel like they're consumed in a much different way. Like Americans at MTV, we had much music and much more music, so they were just always on. But now it's like you kind of have to look. You have to look for them. Kids these days aren't really going to check them out through there. They're going through Spotify, iTunes, or whatever streaming service really they have. It's the streaming age. But enough about that. We'll get into question number 6. Your favorite musical, and a very solid choice.
Yeah, it's really annoying. It feels like saying Shawshank Redemption or Citizen Kane's your favorite movie. I think at the moment, I think that's probably how it feels to say that Hamilton is my favorite musical. But earlier in my life, when Hamilton was in its infancy, I had a show on YouTube. Actually, it was like Facebook video back then, to be fair. And it was called Hamil Jam. And what I did was mashed up. Every week I had a different theme, and I would mash up Hamilton songs with whatever the theme of the week was. So it might have been, if it was Michael Jackson, I'd do Hamilton and Michael Jackson songs mashed up. If it, maybe it was 90s boy bands, I'd do that. And I'd spend 2 hours taking requests and integrating these little. So people would request 90s boy band songs or Hamilton songs, and I would take them, and it was all to sell Funko Pops. So I was working for a personalized Funko Pop company who were making Hamilton Funko Pops before they were made by Funko themselves, and it was nice. It was like a little business, so I would play these songs, and really fun. And yeah, I fell in love with the music way before I got the chance to see it. But we are talking really early days of Hamilton in its first year, and then my life has kind of been, this sort of chapter or the chapter before revolved around Hamilton a lot. I was the official Hamilton podcast. I was engaged to the host of it in New York. That's why I spent so much time in New York, and so I got to spend time at the show and met lots of people and things like that. And I've been to see it in the UK, I don't know, like 10 times or something. So yeah, I definitely have like a connection to it. And even though I'm not in that relationship anymore, and now I'm married with a kid, not to that girl, my love for Hamilton hasn't dissipated. And I felt like I was on the inside of a Hamilton circle once upon a time. And now I'm back to being just a fan of it. Yeah.
This has been the most popular answer for this question. I believe this is the third one, but rightfully so. It rejuvenated people to kind of care about musicals, and it kind of made people look at them in a different light. And I think it could be done in this style. And it's done even so well. When you get into the first half of it, obviously like the title track, Right Hand Man, the Skylar Sisters and whatnot. Helpless, I've said before, I think Helpless is my favorite track on it. Just because how similar it is to like the Ashanti Ja Rule style that Lynn was obviously inspired by. But I think it does so well with those different styles that when you get to wait for it, I think that like I would say one of the more Broadway-esque set songs, like it doesn't venture too far off from that. I think it nails that one out of the park, and like it ultimately sounds so fresh because of everything else around it. It does so many good things with like creating the characters. Like I know a lot of people in this community adore friggin' what's his name? Oh my god, the guy that plays George Washington. God, he's Christopher Jackson. Yeah, he does a really good job. I mean, Jonathan Groff and the many interpretations of King George, how well they did. I still think that "Who Lives, Who Dies" tells your story is one of the saddest songs and just does such a great job. I think Philippa Sue does a really good job. But
have you seen the show? Have you managed to see it?
I've only seen the show on Disney Plus.
On Disney. Okay, so here's a question. I've seen many Elizas, many Elizas, in New York and in London, and there's a moment right at the end of the show, which is probably paying a little bit of homage to Les Mis in the line in Les Mis, which is to have loved is to have seen the eyes of God, or whatever that line is in Les Mis, and it almost has a Titanic thing as well, with them coming together at like what feels the top of the stage, but actually, in Titanic it's the top of the stairs when she goes back, and there's kind of this ghost Alexander, ghost Eliza coming together again, and then she walks. He kind of lets her go, and you could interpret that as, oh, it's been her show the whole time. It's not even his show, and she walks to the front of the stage, and then the Eliza actress, whoever it is, Philippa Sue, had her way of doing it. They make a sound, and I have argued with people that actually have the answer to it, because they're part of the creative team. I interpret it differently. I was wondering if you have an interpretation as to why she does what she does. If you can't remember, Philippa Sue kind of gasps and holds her mouth.
Oh yes. Oh god. Is it at the end of Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story?
It's the last thing that happens in the show before lights out.
Is it?
So her and Hamilton come together. They join hands. Yeah.
I imagine that it has to be the death of somebody, but I mean, I don't have this excuse as a Canadian because you're UK and you adore the series. But yeah, tell me the answer.
Okay, so I'll tell you what people say it is, which is that she. The answer that I've been told by people that actually made the show is that she sees Alexander in heaven. It's her dying, essentially, right? So if you go and watch a bunch of Elizas do this sound, it's supposed to be them dying and going to heaven or whatever, the afterlife. And because she's in Who Lives, Who Dies, Eliza ages 50 years in that one song, right? She tells everything that she took on from that moment. And the Eliza's thread throughout the show is that she becomes part of the narrative. She reminds him that she's part of the narrative, and then she rips up any paperwork with her and Alex having a romance on it, erasing herself from the narrative, which is what she says, I'm erasing myself from the narrative. And then she takes the narrative when he dies, she takes it on and says, I did this, 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 and this. I carried on telling your story. And so there's a lot of moments in the show that are fourth wall breaking, right? There's like lines where they say in parentheses. There are battle raps that happen to the audience. And so my interpretation of it, which was met favorably, was that the reason she gasps is because she sees the audience. And Alexander Hamilton's story is going to be carried on being told by those people. They're going to leave the theater and go, oh my God, you have to. Yeah, because that's her point. She wants to carry on. I'm going to run out of time if I don't keep telling your story. I need to tell your story. I need to tell your story. I did this and they did this. And people are going to forget. They're going to forget. And then she looks up and she goes, and she sees us. You guys are going to tell his story, and everyone does. Everyone talks about Hamilton, right? And I said that's my interpretation of it, and obviously I'm wrong, because what are you going to do? You're going to argue with the people that wrote it, but I think there's something about it. But I've seen other Elizas do it, and it doesn't quite work like that. Philippa Sue's the one that like really, I saw her live, and I was like, oh, that's what she's doing. But anyway, there you go. That's my theory.
Nice. All right, on to question number 7. Your most overrated act. I'll let you review.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of goes with the favorite artist. I think there's the 1 and the 2. One of my favorite artists from the original question, first question, would have been Tim Minchin, who I adore. I've got his picture down here ready to be put up. I've got a bunch of memorabilia that I'm supposed to put up. I love Tim Minchin so much. And I could have said Groundhog Day, the musical, for favorite musical, but I've only seen it twice. I need to see it more for it to solidify. But he's an absolute genius, and I love him. And Tim Minchin has a song, and this is getting to the point of the question, sorry. Tim Minchin has a song where it's a beat poem, so he's playing like a little riff and doing a beat poem, and it's called Mitsubishi Colt. I highly recommend people go and watch it live, because it's fascinating watching him do beat poetry and play piano and do these jokes. And at the end, he's having a conversation in the song with this Australian geezer who's saying, oh, musos, you don't earn a lot, but what a great thing that you do, blah, 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 blah. And he's like being condescending. And Tim's trying not to, get angry in the song. And then the guy says, you know what, mate? If you keep working at it, you could be as good as Elton John. That's the line in the song. And then Tim, that it ends like there's a beat and it ends. And then Tim references the fact that the pub is clearing out as the police are interviewing, because he's knocked the guy out by saying that he wasn't as good as Elton John. He's so offended in the song. It's obviously just Tim Minchin's does comedy music, and I feel exactly the same way. Such an impassioned coexistence that we both feel that this is such an overrated act. So Elton John is my answer. Yeah, I don't understand it at all. You're frozen unless you're holding your face.
No. That's just my jaw in shock. I was trying to replicate whenever I first saw the list. This because of it. This blew me out of the water. But you should have
seen my backup pick would have been. My wife said you can't do that. I'm not even going to say it. But yeah, I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. Just as a piano player, I do not understand how people think. And I was at the O2 recently because Star Wars Celebration was here a couple of weeks ago, and at the O2 there was an event for Star Wars Celebration fans, and Elton was playing that night, and it was jam packed. Like, obviously sold it out. I just don't understand it. Someone will have to explain to me one day why it's a big deal. Don't get it.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, in this community in particular, Billy Joel and Elton John just go hand in hand. Like, I've done a show before where we did a top 20 list, and it was Elton John and Billy Joel combined, intermixed. I do understand the argument though that people have, in that Elton John has a lot more quantity of songs, but his trash is trash. Like, I think it's Jamaican Jerk Off of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I think that's like that is one of the worst songs ever to come out of an album. It's someone that's so revered as him. Okay. I think of like Tiny Dancer, Your Song, even some of his his deeper cuts, like with Rocket Man. I really got to fall in love with Hercules. I think that's just a really cool song, and just like the relationship that he kind of had with Bernie Taupin, and in the era that he was able to go through. I think it also helps growing up and then having Lion King right there. because he was such a big part of that. And it's like, oh well, like I'm going to attach to that. Can You Feel the Love Tonight is one that I still meme to this day when I see anybody doing public display of affection. I think it's just great. It's actually the song that I did in karaoke with Andrew, and it surprisingly took down the house. But yeah, I was fascinated by it. My initial thought behind it was, well, maybe he was overplayed, like kind of similar to how like Rush is a beloved band. I feel like outside of Canada the most. In Canada, it's like, all right, they're good, but they're not as great as everybody says there. So I could definitely understand that take of it. But yeah. Are there any songs in particular that you think don't deserve the praise that they get? Or
I love a lot of Elton's songs. Overrated is you can interpret it a certain way. The way I interpret it is, you know how when we were talking about Baby Grand, I said, even as a Billy Joel fan, that Ray Charles just destroys him on the piano.
Yeah.
The fact that Billy and Elton are paired together, just in terms of ability, is upsetting to me. They do not go hand in hand. One is a very, very basic blues piano player, very, very basic. That's what I'm bothered by with Elton, is that he can do what he does, and it's absolutely fine. But if like an overrated Elton John line would be one of the best piano players of all time, or something like that, one of the best rock piano players. He's just simply not that good on the piano. It's just not that, and his singing voice is just not that good. I think he ticks a box. I think I love a lot of his songs. I'm not saying I hate his songs or anything. I like them, and I loved Rocket Man. I loved it, but he just objectively is not that good at music. That's just how I feel about it.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm better. I'm not better, but I'm not put on stage with Billy Joel and said like sing together. And I've seen them both live together. They did the back-to-back tour.
Back-to-back.
Face-to-face, back-to-back. Can't remember.
I'm not sure. Andrew,
face-to-face.
Andrew was
there, right. Back-to-back was Tim Minchin's tour.
What? I'm sorry. Was I called?
Oh no, yeah. Sorry, I thought I was getting you to see if it was called Face to Face or Back to Back, the tour with Billy Joel and Elton John.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was Face to Face. I'll double check on that.
Yeah, I think it was Face to Face. Yeah, yeah. And look, let's just know, Billy playing an Elton song is like someone improving something. Elton playing a Billy song is like, oh, that sounds like I played it when I was 12. He's just not that strong. And I'm not saying he's bad or anything. It's just, yeah, it is purely about being overrated. And also remember, I'm in the UK, so he's our guy. Yeah. So people here, I'll go around and knock on all my neighbors' houses and ask them. They will not have. They probably tell you a Billy Joel song because it got covered by a boy band here. But they could tell you every Elton song. That's what bothers me. That one is held up over the other, and I'm in isolation as a Billy Joel fan over here because it's not that big.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's a particular overrated interpretation.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from the piano perspective. I think where he kind of peaks might be Funeral for a Friend / Love Lies Bleeding, like that big sort of big instrumental that he's described as like the song that he played at his funeral. And then I think vocally, I think he caps out at Leave On. I know that song that Andrew and I both adore. But while you were talking, I saw Andrew making a bunch of reactions, a bunch of faces. So I want to get him in here. No. You don't get to react like that and then come in here. What are your thoughts? Because you were just as shocked as I was when this came out.
Okay, so Elton is one of my favorite artists of all time. However, the way that you argued it, I can understand. I don't play piano. I don't really play a lot of instruments. So when you put it like that,
right,
I get it.
And the thing that I'll say, the reason I started with the Tim Minchin thing and why I'm imploring people to go listen to Mitsubishi Colt, which is in Tim's bottom half of how good his songs are, it's not great, but it makes the point that as a piano player, being compared to Elton John is an insult. I had that feeling about Elton John before Tim came out with the song Mitsubishi Colt, and then he references that where he knocked someone out in the lyrics of a song because they said one day you could be as good as Elton John, and I was like, oh, thank goodness someone else thinks that way. And it must be a thing among piano players, like in the same way, I guess, that there are plenty of artists out there. Guitar players probably have someone they're like, this guy's the famous guy, like that guy. That must be a thing. And Elton is mine of that. Like I do love. I can play a lot of his songs, and I enjoy playing them. But it's just that whole thing of like, he's just not that good.
For not necessarily for me, but for guitar players in general, I know a lot of people give a ton of shit for Eric Clapton. I think the nickname that they give him in particular is a pentatonic whore. He loves just staying in that scale. I adore him. I think he has some great songs, but yeah, no, it's definitely there.
A friend of mine who's a guitarist feels that way with Jack White. So
okay. What other have you had any overrated act answers that haven't, like, what other answers have you had?
We've had
I saw Kanye.
Kanye.
Pink Floyd.
We've had Pink Floyd. We've had
Pink
Taylor
Floyd, okay.
Taylor Swift. The guy that we had on a couple weeks ago. He's from Minnesota, but Prince is his most overrated act. And Prince being from there. Did somebody have the Beatles? Somebody definitely had the Beatles.
I don't remember that one, but maybe I may have been gone for that week.
Maybe. Yeah, but it's a lot of like usually highly regarded people. I haven't seen people.
I'll tell you mine.
Like
mine's the Doors. So
interesting.
Mine is Guns N' Roses.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But no,
it's. Yeah. I think the question most overrated act should be provocative. It should shock people.
It should,
because otherwise you'd be picking someone who's garbage and everyone knows it, and so they're not overrated.
Yeah,
like that's the point, I guess.
All right, on to question number 8. Since we're in a movie trivia community, I had to put in a question like this to kind of appease that audience. What is your favorite score?
Oh, I have so many, and I picked 2 in one because I'd like to discuss both and their differences and their similarities. This is another shock situation. So the analogy of I was going to use like a football player, like a soccer player, but in Rocky Balboa, the news report that's going on is like, could Rocky in his prime beat the guy in his prime, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that whole debate about, who's the greatest of all time, and in this, this person with the resources and the, especially in athletic stuff, like, if they had the equipment and the nutritional information we have now, could they be as good as player X or whatever? And so I think Jurassic Park and Jurassic World is the best best discussion within the movie world for that exact thing. Okay. And so we've got basically, anybody that's searched my name on YouTube has already seen me do a Michael Giacchino rant before, but essentially we've got John Williams writing the Jurassic Park score, and then Giacchino being tasked with writing Jurassic World. And I have debated with myself whether it's okay to admit that just on a melodic level, Jurassic World is superior as a score, even though it's standing on the shoulders of Jurassic Park. And in the same way that, like, even in the narrative of boxing, in the narrative of Rocky, that boxer who they say, is he as good as blah, 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 he wouldn't be where he is in that world without Rocky having paved the way and all that kind of stuff, right? But objectively, if you step back from who's standing on whose shoulders, what is the better melody? And it's tough to say, and it's also difficult because you have sort of 30 years of Jurassic Park, listening to that and being in love with it, and then you have this new thing that's like 8 years old, and also not that listened to. We're in a completely different time where there's way more content now, so it's not like there's 5 scores that you'd listen to if you were going to listen to scores. So anyway, but I'll play a little bit because everyone knows Jurassic Park score anyway, but it's all in B flat. So that's Jurassic Park, and it's beautiful. And the first difference that Michael Giacchino makes when he's asked to do, people have seen me talk about the fact that he uses these always the 3 notes that he pays homage. People have seen me talk about Spider-Man, the 3-note homage that he does in that, and then in Rogue One to John Williams' original score. But in Jurassic World, the score starts with the B flat, exactly the same as Jurassic Park. But in this movie, so John Williams does this. It's a semitonal difference, and it's quite unusual for the moment that it's trying to achieve, which is wonder and awe, because it's almost they're almost in opposition. But if I was to analyze this and if I sat with John Williams and asked him this, he'd say, oh no, I just thought it sounded good. But it's almost a double take, which is what you get from that scene, that you're looking at the brachiosaur walking, stomping through, and then leaping up to take a leaf from the top of the tree. And it's almost that double take, and it goes down and up. So you're kind of like the move is almost like someone going like that, like a down and up, right? So it's like a musical double take. Now, if that is the reason why, and if Giacchino thought of that reason, what Giacchino has done is scored a movie in Jurassic World where people are actually bored of dinosaurs. It's a really good point that the movie makes, that the people are done with dinosaurs. They've seen it. It's boring. And so what Giacchino does is go up and then down, which is to say in 2015 compared to 93, you don't have people like looking in awe and like, oh my God, double taking, dropping their glasses. You have people that are going from looking down, seeing the dinosaur, and then going straight back to their phone, which I think is the head movement of that musical melody. So this is the Jurassic World score. And obviously it plays within it. It has all the same notes as Jurassic Park. So he's doing exactly what he did in Rogue One, using the entire scale that John Williams used. He using again. But that moment where he goes into so John Williams is playing a score which is the 1 and the 5 and the 4. It's very pop almost. If you were to like think of it like a pop song, it's very pop in its chord structure. The only unusual chord is when he goes to the 7 with the 4. That's how the chord ends. It's almost a little bit. It's a very unusual sound.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. But I'll play a little bit more of Jurassic World, and it's a little bit like he took what Jurassic Park did, stood on those shoulders, and went, actually, there's something interesting I could do here. Like he'd been sat on it for 30 years. Like he actually was. He was, probably loved the Jurassic Park score. He's a composer, and he's thought about the many ways in which he could take that score and make it something interesting and better. And so this is Jurassic World. Oh no, I want to do this bit. Hold on. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, I'm going to get this. Dun, dun. Oh yeah, it's to the F. Very unusual. Okay. That move, that the C minor, the F, it's actually a C minor 9. Oh, it's just glorious, and uses this like the same choir sound. There's vocals in the Jurassic Park score. If anybody like really puts their ear to it, there's like a chorus singing, and Giacchino does the same thing. But those chord sequences, I mean, it's just, for me, it's like if I'd never seen Jurassic Park before and I hadn't heard the scores, and you put both those scores in front of me, that's the debate I have. Actually, that one's a bit better. Like if it was a brand new dinosaur movie, which score do you want? Well, that one's a little bit better. And that's hard because it's John Williams, but that's how I feel about it. So there you go.
No, I never thought of that interpretation with the different differences in the score. I thought that was really cool. And like when you were playing the Michael Giacchino beat, I got the sense of like where like, oh yeah, they're not interested, and like just the way that it moves on, almost it doesn't stay in that rooted B flat note. I've played this one before in band, just in high school. Like it was a trilogy of like this, Schindler's List, and Indiana Jones. You are right though, in that John Williams is kind of like the king of B flat. His best ones are there, and that's annoying for me at times, more so because like when you look at a band or a concert band, like the basics of it, like the clarinet, flute, trumpet, and all that and whatnot. Everything except for clarinets, saxophone, trumpet, and French horn are all in B flat concert. That's the scale that you learn. So I kind of get annoyed of like, oh, like why like just go into a different key. And he does that a couple times. Harry Potter, he goes into E minor. It's great. Indiana Jones is in C, but it's also another half step. My problem with this, and more so with Jurassic Park than anything, of the two signatures that are used in this, and like the one that you were playing, that one doesn't get recontextualized enough. I think for me to kind of attach to it, it just it's played either by like when it gets passed around, it gets played either by like a different instrument, or it's in the same key, or they don't use that signature to progress the song. Like I think of the kind of classical songs that kind of do that same thing. I do like the second signature though, of like the do 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 do. And you were mentioning, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and you were mentioning. Yeah, because you were mentioning the seventh, and that's my favorite part of the score, of like the do 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 do, and then because they go to the A, and that just sounds so fresh and new that when you go back to the main beat, it has this rejuvenated sense of drive with it. I love that move in particular, and like in guitar, it's when it goes from G to F. I just think that's such a powerful transition.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The B theme is way more dynamic and used more dynamically in the movie. It's like almost militaristic at one time, and it's definitely that I was going to bring up the B theme because although I think of the main Jurassic Park, Jurassic World themes, I think the just melodic signature, I think Giacchino has the better one just objectively if you're removing all the other contexts. But he certainly didn't come up with any B theme that is of note. So I think overall the Jurassic Park album is the superior score package.
All right, on to question number 9. Your favorite soundtrack?
Can't remember the last time I thought of a soundtrack album or anything. So I had to dig back in, and there were two. The runner-up I didn't tell you about was The Beach. The DiCaprio film The Beach, I think, has an amazing soundtrack. Really, really cool stuff. Sort of spearheaded by All Saints, Pure Shores, which is a great song. But the one I went with was just a movie that I just had on a lot as a kid, which is Cruel Intentions. And there's a particular reason why I think this earns the favorite soundtrack for me. There are some great songs, a lot of songs that people were asking me to play in college. So the Colorblind. I have taught so many non-piano players how to play that throughout my college. Everyone wanted to learn how to play that one, and it's very achievable. And then, so this is what's interesting. In North America, the film ends with, I think this is right, please fact check me. The film ends with Bittersweet Symphony.
That is correct.
Yeah. Cause it's a bittersweet symphony. So a British album. In the UK release, I think it doesn't end with Bittersweet Symphony. It might have been a distribution issue, but it ends with not a better song, but it anyway. It ends with it. I don't know if you guys know the song. I'm just going to play it. Hold on. Hold on. Don't be scared. You'll never change what's been and gone. 'Cause all of the stars are fading away. Just I definitely heard that before. See them someday. It's Oasis, Stop Crying Your Heart Out. Okay. So yeah, another British band was used for the final scene in Cruel Intentions over here. So there's almost 2 albums, I think, of this, like one with one and one with the other. And I think that's right. This was my introduction to Stop Crying Your Heart Out, and then I've had to play it at a funeral because it was my friend's favorite song. He died, so it's a very powerful track, and probably more. I'm not sure which way around there would have been an issue in the 90s, 98 or something, whether it was that they couldn't get Oasis for the American distribution, or whether it was that they couldn't get Verve for the UK one. I wouldn't know, and I don't know what the story is there, but I just know there are 2 versions of the film in that respect, I think, unless I'm completely wrong. I feel like there is. And the rest of the soundtrack, I just love it, and a lot of songs that from bands that I don't listen to, but I just know those one. I know that song from that band. That's, almost like they're my one-hit wonder of all these bands that I'm sure are great. Yeah. This is a pretty awesome soundtrack. The other ones, other notable ones, Praise You, Flatboy Slim, one of my favorite ones. Whatever. Coffee and TV, Blur is another great one. You were playing it as well. Colorblind. I like Counting Crows, but this one caught me off guard. I did not realize that they had this much power and this much emotion behind them as well. If you love Sex and Candy by Marcy Playground, they also have Coming Up From Behind on here as well. And then, like you were mentioning, Bittersweet Symphony, just a great track that I wish didn't get into all the legal trouble that it did. But the Coffee and TV by Blur is on the album. I don't think it features in the movie. I'm a massive fan of Blur, and I forgot that Coffee and TV is on the album. I don't think it's in the film, but I think it's one of those where it's on the soundtrack. It was probably like a deleted scene or something like that. Or I feel like with movies, there's definitely like concept music where it's like, this is kind of the tone that we're going. A song that we use. But Coffee and TV also a potential favorite music video of a milk carton that gets lost in a kind of a juxtaposition, because milk cartons would be the thing that show up. This child is lost or something like that. Is that a thing? That's what happens in North America. They have like, this child is lost, or this pet is lost, or whatever, on a milk carton. That doesn't happen here. Sorry. When a child is lost, they get put on a milk carton. When a pet is lost, or a pet is on a lamppost, they play Sarah McLachlan song. Nice. Good stuff. So the Coffee and TV video is a milk carton getting lost, and it's very sweet, a little animated thing. Cute. All right, on to the last question of the list. Your favorite song to perform or sing, and you gave a couple different answers here. Yeah. Because there are 2 different types of performances for me. One is One is one that I would play if someone said to me, play a song. It's more for me, actually. It's not a performance, but I always visualize it as a performance anyway. So I've mentioned him a couple of times because if circumstances were different, he would have been my number one. Every photo you see of me as a kid, I'm wearing a Michael Jackson jumper. I was so in love with Michael Jackson, absolutely adored him. Down here, my wife is not letting me put this up on the wall. I have a 1 of 25 Thriller gold disc, which is worth a lot of money. So I'm not going to tell anyone my address, but my relationship with Michael Jackson now is very complicated because I can't figure out how to work that out in my head as to how much I love his music and how I grew up on the guy. I absolutely grew up on him. So it's really tricky, but I did pick one of his songs for a performance, and it was "She's Out of My Life." Just the ability to just wobble your voice, to feel the emotion of it. It's the first song that I ever played and sung that I was able to act, which isn't a thing, right? Normally you just play and sing music, and like you might put on a bit of a performance, but this one I could act it out. I could almost break into tears playing this song. I just absolutely love playing this. And then there's just a couple of moments in it, and the key changes. I'll put on a nice E piano so that we're playing in the world that the song sits in. Starts on a sus. So just out of my life, and then it got to this diminished thing. I'm just like, what genius he is. She's out of my life, damned indecision and cursed pride. I kept my love for her locked deep inside, and it cuts like. I just love it. It's all up in that high register. I really like it. Sorry, you.
No. I was just gonna say, when you're talking about like the sevenths and the sort of the diminished notes and like the suspended note, I think that's a really cool piece of the puzzle in terms of music, because like once you get so far into music theory, you kind of like you realize where the song is going and how much that one note that you're adding in there kind of dictates like kind of the palette that you can use, or the different keys that you can use and whatnot. And it's cool. Like considering Michael Jackson is a very very notable entertainer in terms of just the production that's often behind him. You see him with like Thriller, Beat It, and whatnot. This is one of his more bare bones tracks. It's just him and the keys. Comes off an incredible record as well, off the wall, that I think this doesn't get talked about enough. But and then you had another one by an overlooked vocalist, I guess you would say.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, this one is absolutely fascinating. The only for my very limited knowledge, I think this is one of the only big band songs that have been written within the sort of world of contemporary music. So Robbie Williams is the artist who went solo after being in the boy band Take That, and one of our favorite singers in the UK, and had some great hits like Angels and Rock DJ and stuff like that. But he did a big band album, like a swing album, and it was just full of duets. And the last track on the album is an original, which is so weird to think that someone can write a new big band swing song. And the reason I love it, first of all, melody wise, it's just wonderful. I'll play a little bit, but it's called "I Will Talk and Hollywood Will Listen," and it name drops Spielberg in the lyrics. I mean, come on, great fun. So I'll play a little bit of it. So the song is about someone who's desperately lonely and thinks that they should be somewhere they're not, which is probably the struggle that a lot of artists have. Like I that should be me up there or whatever. And and they go through the first. It's all a fantasy. The whole song is a fantasy in this person's head, and they're thinking of where they would be. And the second verse kicks off with them talking about a book that they've published that's been picked up for a movie. And I'll play that and then the chorus, and I think it's wonderful and a great way to kind of finish. It goes, buy up the rights to my book and live on a ranch from what the box office took. And I'll go and visit the set. They'll call me their savior. And I will talk and Hollywood will listen. See them bow at my every word. Mr. Spielberg, look just what you're missing. Doesn't that seem a little absurd? Bow at my every word. Yeah, it's just beautiful, and it's full swing. I played it a little more balladic than it would have been, but it's so beautiful. Just someone so desperate, like Mr. Spielberg, look at what you're missing, and then realizes that he's being silly. Doesn't that seem a little absurd? Bow at my every word. I'm no one. I love it. It's a very, very sad song. And most of my picks are, I think.
Yeah, this is the kind of song that makes me feel that like Robbie Williams should be. I don't like not necessarily starring in movie musicals or like should be kind of there because I feel like he just has so much character and just the control that he has on his voice in terms of volume. Like he's really good at going from like these hush sort of moments and then crescendoing into these big sort of payoffs or whatever. I don't play piano as much as I used to. It was the first instrument that I learned, but there are two songs that I try to keep fresh in my repertoire. You're Still the One by Shania Twain, and then Angels by Robbie Williams. It's a simpler song, but I think it's just another powerful one as well.
Yeah, beautiful,
his voice also hasn't aged a bit, and I think just with the big band behind him, it just adds so much to it.
Yeah, there's a Blu-ray out there that you could probably get imported from over here called I think it's probably called Robbie Williams Swing When You're Winning live at the Albert Hall, of him doing a performance at the Royal Albert Hall, and it is like Frank Sinatra's back, probably even better because he's a classically trained singer rather than these big band guys weren't. There wasn't a lot of range in their vocal. I don't want to do another overrated thing, but
they were busy filming Ocean's 11, and then after that they were just drinking at the bar.
But Robbie does it all. He does the microphone spinning around the middle finger. He does the full proper swing thing for this one album, and it's like it's brilliant. So I recommend listening to that album. I Will Talk and Hollywood Listen is the last track. And the reason that my answer was split, which I didn't get to, was She's Out of My Life is the one that I would sit and play at the keys. I Will Talk and Hollywood Listen. I've never played on piano before. That's the first time I've ever played it. It's a backing track song for me because I like the full band. So that's the one that if I'm going to do some sort of in the car karaoke thing, I put on that because I like the orchestration, and I've never played that before.
Nice. Well, thank you for bringing that out for that today with your debut. But that is the end of the official list. I have two little questions that I like to give to the end to kind of link it on for episodes forward. Who are you listening to today that people should check out? And who are some people that you think would be a good fit for the show?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Let me think. So, who am I listening to? So there's a singer in the UK who I loved so much with his vocal. I felt like I wanted to X-ray his chest and see how big his lungs are. He can hold a note, and he can hold notes and then disappear them into whispers. And I was wondering if it was just studio techniques, and then I saw him live, and it just, oh my God. And then I got to be his piano player on tour. So I got to work with him and I, he found out I was a fan on tour. It's not something you go with immediately, but like a few shows in, and I was doing okay. And I said, basically, I know how to play every one of your songs. I'm a massive fan. And anyway, and that person is called Tom Baxter, and he is, in my opinion, the UK's best singer, and no one's heard of him. It's really upsetting.
Okay.
He has the best vocal I've ever heard, ever. I genuinely believe he's the best vocalist, male vocalist. I just don't understand how he can do what he does with his voice. It's so pure. Yeah. There's a song called Almost There, which isn't the go-to song for anybody listening now to go and listen. But there's a song in there's a moment in Almost There where he holds a note in melody longer than I can hold my breath. And he's vocal. I can't sing along with it, and I have good lungs. It's unbelievable. So very, very impressed by him. And then I actually got to like sit next to him, and on my YouTube channel there's a couple of clips of the tour of me singing and playing with him. And who would I recommend for the show? I couldn't I don't know what his interest in music is like, but I couldn't not recommend my co-host to Settle the Score, only because it gives us another plug. But but Matt's a great chat. I would, you know what? It's because we get together and it's usually 11 p.m. my time. We don't chat, me and Matt. So if I could get the opportunity to watch someone ask him questions and find out a bit more about him that way, that would be very, very cool for me, because
that would be cool. Yeah, I definitely had my top 10 days. They kind of peaked out at Thunderdome whenever they were doing that show. But yeah, I always loved his banter with John Roca, and that he was kind of the straight wise guy to Roca's kind of more animated takes and whatnot. Matt can be very dry at times, and I love that dry style of humor. But thank you, Andy, for coming on, for staying on as late as it is over there. It was a great chatting with you. Just kind of get to pick your brain, and especially like the score question. I love the answer that you gave to that and how you contextualized it. But yeah, for Andrew, bring in Andrew and Melissa as well. Melissa, thank you for suggesting Andy, having him on. Andrew, as always, the great producer man, fact checker, the GIF enroller, if you will, or the GIF curator.
I don't know if I like that title.
But you provide the memes. And the memes help. The memes help with the show.
See, I'm like the internet Arby's. We have the memes.
Okay. All right. So for Andy, for Melissa, for Andrew, myself, cheers, guys, and as always, drive safely.